Now that you were introduced in some of the context around deep learning, it is a good time now to discuss a little bit around some of the characteristics of deep learning. And probably the most important characteristic of deep learning is its capability, its effectiveness in learning multidimensional nonlinear functions. Remember, we have discussed in this course about how training a model is actually nothing more than learning a function. Well, the form of that function is very important with respect to the types of machine learning algorithms that you can use and the outputs they produce. And this is where deep learning models really shine. As I mentioned, they can be super effective in learning very complicated functions, highly dimensional functions. In this context, there are a few characteristics that I would like to highlight for deep learning. The first one is deep learning is capable of handling massive amounts of training data. Think of, for example, a collection of hundreds of thousands of very high-resolution images. That is a large amount of data that can be used for training. The other interesting characteristic here is that deep learning excels with raw and unstructured data. And the reason why it does that is because it has those intrinsic capabilities of learning new features at every single hidden layer of the neural network. That's why it is so good in handling raw and unstructured data. And tightly connected with this is the capability of what we call automatic feature extraction. As you've seen in some previous examples, we can learn increasingly complex features from data with every hidden layer of the neural network, and that happens in kind of an automatic way. You don't need to explicitly program or set up the deep learning model to do that. It happens as part of the very training process of the model. And finally, obviously, all this comes at a cost. So the training of deep learning models is computationally expensive. For the most complex models, you will need a significant amount of compute resources. You will need specialized types of compute resources, like, for example, GPUs or even TPUs. TPU stands for TensorFlow Processing Unit, which is a dedicated hardware that processes steps in the training of the deep learning models. So unless you have a very simplified deep learning model, chances are you will need significant amounts of hardware, significant amounts of compute resource to train those models, which also means that there is a cost associated with the training of a deep learning model, and that cost, the more complex is your model, the more hidden layers you have, the more nodes you have, that cost can increase significantly and actually become a significant factor in deciding whether to train or retrain a given deep learning machine learning model.